Yeah, it is us. Yeah, we are. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to switch to English for our sharing. So it's so I'm sharing a view of embodied AI from our research, from the CMVC team. We have just heard from the CICC on the humanoid overall, the industry, and we are presenting our view on the investment opportunity and the field. So this is from my talk at the last Innovation China conference 6 months ago. And we were talking about neuromorphic AI and neurological AI. And we are saying that we were discussing that humanoids and autonomous driving vehicles are basically embodied neuromorphic AI. So neuromorphic AI means that AI is also subject to constraint and physical principles. And so the combination is what we call neuromorphic AI. And so we showed this chart about autonomous driving, which started in 2004 with DARPA Grant Challenge in the US. And it went to, at 2017, it sort of reached its peak, and then it went down to the trough of disillusionment. And we were saying now it's really picking up into the slope of enlightenment. And started with Waymo piloting autonomous driving robotaxi in San Francisco around 2023. And now it's very popular in the Bay Area. And if we move towards today, so we were saying that in fact the humanoids are a lot more difficult than autonomous driving vehicles. So first of all, the vehicle doesn't interact with the physical world. In fact, it tries to avoid getting anything in the physical world. So it's avoiding interacting with the physical world is its role. While for humanoids, sensing and interacting with the physical world, in fact, it needs to sense and interact. Both are quite difficult. And secondly, for the autonomous vehicle, it's a singular and defined task. It's going from A to B. So you enter where you want to go and it goes. While for the humanoid, it's a very complex and undefined task, and also intention. So basically, for the home use, for example, if the Optimus goes into your home, we're always wondering, how does he know how clean you want your home to be? What do you want to eat? How will it cook for you? And so there's the whole story about intention. That's why at least it's in our belief that in the future, actually the humanoids for home, maybe brands are like as Apples and the phones, Samsung, and we will hear from Samsung later at the end of the day. So those, because to understand the intention, the best tool is to connect with your phone. So we believe in the future, every phone brand will have their own humanoid body that will be there to understand your intention. And then for the autonomous vehicle, there's a larger space to install power and computers, so its computing power is not a limitation factor for the autonomous vehicle. While for humanoids, you have limited space for batteries, sensors, and memory. Because although the training module runs on the back cloud, the actual implementation and of the humanoids in action and execution needs to execute locally. So there's a large demand on memory and computing power in the humanoid itself. The pricing of the autonomous vehicle can be higher, 40K or less, while the humanoid is priced to less than 50K. So for the Optimus launching in California, I was told it's like a small car, it will be around 30K. But the whole idea is to get to below 20K. So it's challenging as well. And finally, the autonomous vehicle just sits on the ground. The maximum damage it can do is blocking traffic. While if a humanoid fell down, falling down in a home or in an application, it actually could hit a machine or a person and so on. So we believe humanoid is actually a lot more challenging than the autonomous vehicle. But as we heard from the CICC presentation right now, just now, literally in China at least, we are literally acting as people inflated expectation. There's a huge bubble or in terms of the valuation expectation and a FOMO effect. So if you follow the news of the Chinese venture capital, it's like every day there's a robotic company or brain company or hand company that raise hundreds of millions of RMB or dollars and so on. So for CM Venture, like every other venture capital firm, I guess there is always that FOMO effect that we are missing out. So our team, the CM Venture team, has been doing a lot of work in the and running, going around to see robots and data collection companies and so in the last 6 months. That is our team, but it's impossible to visit everyone. Our team was holding up a map of the robot humanoid company in China. There was over 200 of them. Like that was, I'm sure now it's probably even more. So it's increasing so fast, it's like impossible for any VC firm to visit all. And we have been reading a lot of papers, so burning a lot of brain cells to understand how this brain works and what is driving the algorithm behind this motion. So we are going to share what we believe today, and it's our thoughts. Yeah. So after all that work, a lot of study and a lot of visiting and a lot of aha moments when we work into these startups, we decided to focus on basically brains and sensors. And so that's why out of the 18 startups here, we invited primarily in the sensor field. So both tactile sensor, so on the touch sensors, we have a few startups doing touch sensor, and we will hear from the Shanke regarding the computer vision, which is optical sensor as well. So we invited startups that we believe are very unique and have a very interesting point of view that it may not be the mainstream, but very innovative in the optical and tactile sensor field. So in terms of the brain, it is actually very hard to understand how it works, but by now we believe that it actually is consolidated into a singular route. Basically, you start with teleoperation data. Everybody started teleoperating their robot. So teleoperation data is the most accurate because you literally robot study from what they do. But it's costly to acquire, right? So you literally need a human to train the robots. So it's the fewest, so least amount of data because the collection is so difficult. And then you go to a motion capture suite, so you don't have the whole body anymore, but you will have a body and you will have the hand and head and so on. So that is a bit easier to capture data, but so there's more of them. And then we have the unique data, so universal machine interface, so you are only with the hand. So now you start from whole body to half a body to hand, and then finally, right now you have people-centered data where people are only wearing cameras. So that is the most available, the largest amount of data, and so essentially we are looking at the alphabet soup of data. So I believe every single brain company or the robotic brain company is basically a combination of all these data. Everyone starts with the video data, and then you have add to the only data, and then you add teleoperating data, which is the most accurate. So it's actually hard to tell the difference between all these companies that are in the brain. And so if we look at the model, the robotic brain model that has it evolved, but we do believe it's now consolidating into basically you are either predicting the next action from a video. So you are taking the past action and you predict the next frame, or you are predicting the next trajectory. So I believe all the different models basically come to predicting either the frame, which is the next picture, or the next trajectory, so that then it gets translated into motion to drive the robot into all these joints, how they move and so on. So this is basically how robots think. They think just like us human maybe to think or to visualize what's the next step, or literally just passing, following a particular trajectory. So if we look at the tech stack for the robotic AI, so we believe it's very similar to the generative AI tech stack. So for generative AI tech stack, you have general AI model layer, LLM, and then you have specific AI models, and you have hyperlocal AI model, then you have operating system, API layer, and then application. The key difference is here, the operating system is already there, so it's the computer. So basically, you don't have to reinvent operating system. So people are just building application on top of the operating system. While in the robotic AI, so first of all, we are still training the model, so you need to gather data to train model. So we believe the general robotic AI model is at least 2 to 3 years away. So at least the robots that we have visited and seen, at this moment, I believe the intelligence is maybe at kindergarten levels. So we believe it's 2 to 3 years away to have a general robotic brain AI. And then in the next, so this is very capital intensive and needs lots of funding. So in this area, we actually believe for NVIDIA, for example, spending $1 billion a year capturing data and have open source model. So it's actually hard to beat for startups to say, I am going to come up with a better foundation model for robotics. So it's a very capital-intensive race, and we believe actually most startups are going to use the open source model, foundation model from NVIDIA, and build it on top. So that's where the second layer. So that's where most startups probably will be doing, which is for specific industry. So like warehousing, for warehousing, there will be more collecting data about sorting, picking, placing, or like for household cleaning, cooking, and so on. So most startups will be building these industry-specific model on top of the foundation model, which most likely will be an open source model from large players. Then there's third hyperlocal AI model, so for specific homes, factories, and customers. So we have seen startups focused on, for example, specifically for Yangaoyan, so it's an OPL facility. So those are very specific hyperlocal kind of model. And then, which is interesting is, are we going to connect these two business systems? Is it WMS or is it consumer phone? Because the robots don't know your intention. So how does the robot need to be operated? And we have fleets, so managing robot fleets, just like Uber for ride sharing and so on. So there will be an opportunity to invest into these fourth and fifth layer. We don't know yet. So one we see so far, like for warehousing, the WMS needs to distribute tasks. Some will be for robots, some will be for humans, some will be for forklift. So would this consolidate into an operating system for the robots? And how does it connect to the consumer, this is where does the intention come from? I think that's just a question yet to be answered. So for the U.S. narrative, so we also heard from CICC, U.S. versus China. So for the U.S. investment narrative, a lot of money is going to the robotics foundation model, and it's going to the sensors, because in the end, 40% of the robot hardware is going to be sensors. It's not going to be the body itself. And the US is investing heavily into GPUs and memories. So if you look at the amount of investment, those are the tech stack where the US investment goes. And in terms of application, where the revenue is generated from this physical AI, in fact, it goes into robot taxis. That's really taking off. Robot taxi is a very much physical AI embodiment, and that's so where you can see Waymo and you can see Uber, and so incorporating into Uber. So it's a very revenue-generating, profit-generating model. And into e-commerce, so like Amazon large e-commerce can use physical AI to generate profit. So those are where the application or the model goes return. While China investment narrative is completely different, I would say. So first of all, a lot goes into hardware, humanoids. We have over 200 humanoids companies already. And now the money is also going into the brains. Every day we are seeing startups raising money to do the brains. And where does the money go? Like, where do you make the money? Selling the humanoids, like what we saw just now from CICC. Selling hands and other components, so that's revenue generating as well. And what's the end application? Education, entertainment, 2G, government buying a lot, and to manufacturing. So my colleagues reminded me 3 minutes. So for CM Venture, we are basically a very practical venture capital. So in the immediate term, our portfolio companies are already implementing physical AI. So we have the exhibiting here downstairs thesis, which is in the autonomous drone, and we will hear from each CEO about his doing autonomous driving, but how he is implementing the latest VIA model to improve autonomous driving for factories and industrial setting. And we have more wisdom. You will hear the dialogue with Siemens Medical this afternoon about how that enables surgical robots or surgical automation. So those are existing portfolio companies that they immediately apply the technology. And in the short term, we are focused on brains, tactile sensors, and visual solutions. So in play here, we have among the startups, so Trauma Creative is about tactile sensor, Pneumatic is about touch sensor, and Photonics is about visual sensor. So you will hear from the startups or visit them downstairs on their technology or in these areas. And in the future, mid to long term, we are going to look at the operating system for fleets application. Because basically, we believe these areas, they may be limited in market size, and we are looking more in general. That's 2 to 3 years later. So that's from medium to long term. Yeah, so I think I ended just on time, right?